PR Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. And on this edition of Vegas Hockey Hub Recap, where we break down every single game of the Vegas Golden Knights season, we're going to be talking about the most recent matchup that happened on the schedule as the Vegas Golden Knights took on the New York Islanders. And this was a good game for your Vegas Golden Knights. And there's a lot of positives. There's a lot of ups. So we're going to be talking about this game here on Vegas Hockey Hub Recaps. And I'm your host, Ian Rachiele, and we're going to get into it in just a little bit. Now, before we do, go to PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media, and check out all of the amazing content we have on the network. We have about a dozen shows now on the platform, including Vegas Hockey Hub. So if you want to go to PRConnectionsRadio.com and check out all of the content on there, we have shows like Crypto and Cash, The Love of Business, Cozy Stone. We have the power. There's so much content that is on our channel. So go to PRConnectionsRadio.com. Also, go to our social media pages. We are at PR Connections on YouTube and at PR Connections Radio on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We are everywhere on social media. So go to PR Connections Radio on all platforms. If you also want to follow your host, Ian Rachiele, at Ian J. Rachiele. Now, we have a lot of topics and a lot of stuff that we have to discuss in tonight's game. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it here on the show. Now, the first thing was a roster move that happened with the Golden Knights in between the last game and now. And it was reported that the Vegas Golden Knights, they would claim defenseman Tobias Bjornfot from the LA Kings. Now, when it comes to Tobias Bjornfot, he's a young defenseman. This is somebody that the Vegas Golden Knights are looking at as someone who maybe could be a blue liner with some experience, but young enough to really learn from the Golden Knights organization. And it's really fascinating to really stop and look at what Tobias Bjornfot has done throughout his career at this point. This is a guy, 22 years old, former first-round pick back in 2019. But what's amazing about him is the fact that you see a guy like Tobias Bjornfot who, he's kind of been in between the NHL and the AHL. The Los Angeles Kings have tried to use him throughout the past couple of years. Now he's getting a fresh new chance here in Vegas. We saw him play in his first game for Vegas in this game against New York. And I just find incredible the fact that you have a guy like Tobias Bjornfot who could have some good upside here. This is somebody that I believe could get a second chance as a waiver claim. I mean, we've seen Vegas Golden Knights use waiver claims to their advantage before, just like we saw with Michael Amadio a couple of years ago. There is some good opportunities here in Vegas if you are able to take advantage of it. So Vegas Golden Knights, they get a defenseman from the Los Angeles Kings. They claim defenseman Tobias Bjornfot off of waivers. So, we'll see how he does long term, but that is a good situation there for Vegas. And then it was also announced that William Karlsson has been placed on IR. Now, we saw the injury that happened at the Winter Classic with William Karlsson, and there was some possibility about him being on the IR. Now it has been confirmed that he has been placed on IR. So I will say with William Karlsson, that's just a situation where, injuries happen in hockey. We all know about it, but it is going to be fascinating to see who really steps up when it comes to him not being in the lineup. Because, we saw the lineup change. We saw what the lines were for today's game. We'll talk about that later. But with William Karlsson, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with these center pairings in the meantime. Because, of course, you have Jack Eichel. Of course, you have Nick Waugh, who's going to be stepping up now in the top six. And then you've also had Brett Howden, and you have some good players on that end. And then during the pregame notes, during the morning skate and everything that was happening there, Aiden Hill returning to practice. That is a good opportunity for the Vegas Golden Knights. Obviously, we all know that Logan Thompson has been the workhorse for the Vegas Golden Knights. So seeing Logan Thompson do what he has done since Aiden Hill has had a bit of an absence, I look at what Aiden Hill has done and how he is returning to practice. He's trying to get back into full health. So I will say for Aiden Hill, it's only going to be a matter of time before he does get back and suit up for the Vegas Golden Knights. But yeah, returning to practice, Aiden Hill, that is a solid move there. And eventually when he does return, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the goaltending and more importantly with the cap, considering what Vegas is at right now. And then the last person who returned from practice is Daniil Maramanov. Of course, a young defenseman. This is a guy who did get injured to start out the year. He has not played at all. And the fact that he is returning to practice, he has the red practice jersey on. And when it comes to a guy like Maramanov, he is someone who could maybe go to Henderson for a little bit of conditioning. Maybe he'll get called up to Vegas, depending on the injuries when it comes to defense with your Vegas Golden Knights. But it will just be an interesting situation when it comes to the defenseman, because once you have all these guys come back and they're fully healthy, now you have not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, not seven, but you have 8 defensemen at your disposal now. So when it comes to the Golden Knights, the depth of their defensemen is really what matters when it comes to your Vegas Golden Knights at this point. And then there was a lineup change, and Zach Whitecloud, he would be taken out of the lineup for this game against the New York Islanders, but a good situation would happen for your Vegas Golden Knights as top prospect Lucas Cormier would be in for the Vegas Golden Knights. That's right, Lucas Cormier would make his NHL debut. He would have his rookie lap before the game, which is always a good moment in the NHL. But Lucas Cormier making his debut in the lineup in exchange for Zach Whitecloud. And you saw in this matchup here, so you have the defensive pairings that we're seeing right here, right now. And there's going to be a lot of interesting changes. There's going to be a lot of back and forth on how this lineup is going to look in terms of long term, because we all don't know what the situation is with the rest of the guys who are out. But good opportunity there. Lucas Cormier in, Zach Whitecloud out. And then you had Logan Thompson once again, LT in net for your Vegas Golden Knights. And for a guy like Logan Thompson, he has been a workhorse. I mean, this is somebody who has been working day in and day out as your starting goaltender for the Vegas Golden Knights. I know there was some concern about Logan Thompson considering the injuries he had last year and because of how great Aiden Hill did early in the year. But man, when Logan Thompson needs to be in net, you can rely on him. When you need Logan Thompson to step up, he will be there when it matters. So Logan Thompson being in net once again for your Vegas Golden Knights. I know there was some talk about having a swap with the Vegas Golden Knights, maybe a possibility having Patara come in. I know that was a possibility. But at the end of the day, Bruce Cassidy is going to trust someone who has been doing it for near 2 years now, and that's Logan Thompson. Now, getting into the game itself, as Vegas Golden Knights, New York Islanders, the game would tip off, and it would be the first 5 minutes, some good back and forth. There were some game scoring opportunities by New York and by Vegas, but 6 minutes into the first period, Jack Eichel with his 17th goal of the season, assisted by Alex Pietrangelo and Jonathan Marchessault. So Jack Eichel, this guy has just been incredible this year. I mean, in terms of somebody who most likely will be the MVP of this season for your Vegas Golden Knights, 17th goal of the season. It was a good play, good setup by Pietrangelo, and then Jonathan Marchessault, he's been doing a really solid job this year as well. And you could tell that the line chemistry between Marchessault and Eichel has really gelled and really developed over time. So for the Vegas Golden Knights, Jack Eichel, he scores that goal. But unfortunately, this would not be a 1-0 game for long, as about 5 minutes later, for the New York Islanders, Matthew Barzal, with his 11th goal of the season for the New York Islanders, assisted by Anders Lee and Bo Horvat, to make it a 1-1 game for the New York Islanders and Vegas Golden Knights. And I really want to sit here and break down what this goal was and really examine how it went. But, I've noticed with the New York Islanders, they have a bit of a hot and cold streak at times. I mean, this is a New York Islanders team that, you have Barzal, you have Lee, you have Horvat. You do have some good weapons with the New York Islanders, but it just seems like at times the coaching is holding it back a bit. So, Barzal, he is someone who is going to be, 11th goal of the season. And the fact that he is, someone who's been kind of a star for the New York Islanders over the past couple of seasons. And, we'll see how the New York Islanders do come playoff time. We'll see if they have a chance of making the playoffs, considering all the rosters and the schedule at this point. But, New York Islanders, they tied up at 11 minutes into the first period. And that just really makes you question. You really got to ask yourself, when it comes to the New York Islanders organization, where do they go from here, considering where they are in the standings? This is a New York Islanders team that's just kind of in the middle right now in the Metro. 18 wins, 11 losses, and 10 overtime losses. Now, those overtime losses do help in the points. We all know that. But when it comes to this Islanders organization, if you're in the middle and you're around the playoffs, we'll see what they do over the last little while. And then for your Vegas Golden Knights, there would be an opportunity that would be taken advantage by someone who's been on a hot streak recently. With about 3 minutes left in the second period, Pavel Dorofeev with his 5th goal of the season, assisted by Chandler Stevenson and your captain. So the Vegas Golden Knights would be up 2-1. And this was just a really good situation because Pavel Dorofeev really showed that he could actually be a legit goal scorer. And I really like him on the second line. This is a second line winger that has really developed over the last year and a half. I mean, I know there was some challenges. There was some talk about him not being a top 6 winger, but over time, he has earned that spot. He's gritty. He's aggressive. He has some good energy. I like his hustle. So when it comes to Pavel Dorofeev, I really like what I've seen from him this year. And the fact that he is heated up when it matters the most, I like that about this. Chandler Stevenson had a good setup on this play as well. And when it comes to Chandler Stevenson, he has been hit or miss at times. Sometimes he is on it, and then sometimes he's barely on the score sheet. And of course, your captain doing what he has always done, and that's make the Golden Knights better. So I will say for Dorofeev, 5th goal of the season, and to make it a 2-1 game for your Vegas Golden Knights, that it was a good story there. And I don't even want to talk about the penalties because yes, there was a Barbashev penalty towards the end of the first period. Of course, the New York Islanders had a delay of game penalty at some point, but I will say when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights organization, the penalties were not as bad as it was against the last game where the Vegas Golden Knights had so many penalties that created power play opportunities. The Golden Knights only had 2 tonight. And then a minute later, after the Pavel Dorofeev goal, the Golden Knights are up by 1. Nick Waugh with his 6th goal of the season, assisted by Brett Howden and Paul Cotter. So this made a 3-1 game for your Vegas Golden Knights. And Nick Waugh really has shown that he is more than just a 4th-line center. Because there's been a lot of talk about what do you do with Nick Waugh at the center position. Because he is talented enough to not be a 4th-line center anymore. But the Vegas Golden Knights have had so much depth at the center position that a lot of people have actually been questioning and wondering, what do you do with him long term? Well, this goal right here, good setup by Howden, by the way. But when it comes to Nick Waugh, he has shown that, he can do a good wrist shot, good backhand. If you need somebody on the slap shot, he can do that as well. but Nick Waug's 6th goal of the season. And after the end of 2 periods in this game, you would have the Vegas Golden Knights 3, the New York Islanders 1. And this was a good game overall for the Vegas Golden Knights. Not many negatives and a lot more positives in this matchup for the Vegas Golden Knights. And, I will say the Vegas Golden Knights organization, they did a lot of positives when it came to this game tonight. And, you really have to sit there and examine what the faceoffs have been because, a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but I will. When it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, you saw who the centers were in exchange for Carlson being on IR. They put Amadio in that spot because you had Stevenson, you had Stevenson, you had Eichel, you had Amadio, and then you had Nick Waugh. So that was just really the center lines for this game. And, at this point, I really couldn't complain about anything. Obviously, we saw that Marchessault, Eichel, and Barbashev were line 1. But then you had Stevenson, you had Stone, and then you had Dorofeev on line 2. You had Howden, Cotter, and Waugh, and then you had Amadio, Diansenko, and Kolazar. So this was just really the interesting line change for this game because you had, once again, Kolazar. He was in the lineup with Diansenko and Amadio in this game. So when you were entering the third period, Vegas Golden Knights were trying to build on momentum. They were trying to capitalize on this game. And I will say the Vegas Golden Knights did do that, as not only throughout the first 2 periods, you only had 1 power play opportunity and 1 penalty kill opportunity, but more importantly, this was a Golden Knights organization who did relatively well in the first 2 periods. And this is something that a lot of people don't want to mention. But this was a Golden Knights team that throughout the night, they were taking their shots and they were doing it at a good pace. Of course, Jack Eichel, 5 shots on the night. Well, we all know that Jack Eichel is a guy who does like to shoot the puck. He's really solid at that. But even Nick Hague led the entire team in 7 shots on net with the Golden Knights tonight. And, I will point out and I will mention that when it comes to the Golden Knights tonight, they played more like a unit. They played more like a team overall. And I can respect that. Because this is a Golden Knights who over the last couple of weeks, let's be honest, there's been some dysfunction here. There's been some lack of team unity, lack of team progress. So this was a good game to watch if you're a Golden Knights fan. And then getting into the third period, not even 1 minute into the third period, Jack Eichel with his 2nd goal of the game, make that 18 on the season, and assisted by, the top prospect making his NHL debut, and that was Lucas Cormier. So Lucas Cormier gets an assist in his NHL debut, and the Golden Knights would be up 4-1. And now Jack Eichel, some people like him, some people don't. People here in Vegas love him because he is a superstar. He is really the guy that Vegas needed. I mean, I understand Mark Stone from a captain perspective, from a leader in the locker room perspective, but just being a bona fide superstar, being someone who is a top 10 talent in Jack Eichel, he has really made a big difference for the Vegas Golden Knights, and you saw it in this game tonight. And then a few minutes later, Matt Martin, the enforcer, the gritty bruiser on the 4th line, he would get his 2nd goal of the season for the New York Islanders and would get them back down to 2. And I really have nothing to say about this goal because, Matt Martin is Matt Martin. There's really not much I could say about him. But you know what? It does happen with Logan Thompson. There is a goal or 2 that's going to be let up. But overall, in this game tonight, Logan Thompson did a stand-up job. I mean, 27 saves on 29 shots. And Matt Martin getting this past Logan Thompson. You could really see that the New York Islanders were trying in the third period. You could tell that they were really trying to make an attempt to win this game and get back into it. But you know what? Logan Thompson did such a good job tonight. I'm not going to look at 1 or 2 goals as a negative here. But it did not matter for your Vegas Golden Knights as they were up by 2 goals, and it would be extended to 3 goals once again as Nick Waugh, with his 2nd goal of the game, 7th goal of the season, assisted by Keegan Kolazar. So I will say when it comes to Keegan Kolazar, good assist on this play. Nick Waugh, 2nd goal of the game. It would be a 5-2 affair for your Vegas Golden Knights. And, Nick Waugh, once again, really solid job tonight. Him and Jack Eichel could both deserve player of the game, and I'll talk about that later in the show. But Nick Waugh, this is somebody who I look at as, he could be a top 9 forward. He could be a second-line center, a third-line center if need be. But just because of the depth of Vegas, he has been a fourth-line center the last couple of years. So really solid job by him. And this would be the final result of this situation. Outside of a minor penalty by Tobias Bjornfoot on Matt Martin, the Vegas Golden Knights would pick up the victory at T-Mobile Arena. The Vegas Golden Knights would win 5-2. And what an incredible game this was for your Vegas Golden Knights. A solid 60 minutes with Vegas. And you know what? This is going to build momentum for sure. And I am really excited to see how Vegas does for the rest of the schedule here. Because this is a Golden Knights team that's really going to take on some tough opponents over the next couple of weeks. I mean, this is a Golden Knights organization where you have Colorado and Boston back-to-back. You have New Jersey and New York back-to-back. You have the Rangers and the Red Wings back-to-back. So this is going to be a Golden Knights team that's really going to have to show their consistency on the road against some tough teams. And the Vegas Golden Knights player of the game is going to go to Jack Eichel. Like I said before, Nick Waugh has a case for being player of the game, but what Jack Eichel did tonight, 5 shots on net, 2 goals went in the back of the net, and more importantly, he scored the first goal of the game, and he scored the game that got really out of reach to begin the 3rd period. So Jack Eichel, the first, I will say with Jack Eichel, he is the player of the game for your Golden Knights organization. So I will say when it comes to your Vegas Golden Knights, he did a stellar job for Vegas. And you know what? Here is the win-loss record for your Vegas Golden Knights. You see on the screen right now. And, the Vegas Golden Knights, they're going to try to build momentum here. I understand we've had a rough patch. We've had a bit of a losing streak as of late. People are going to talk about that, and that's fine. But when it comes to your Vegas Golden Knights, this is going to be a real interesting eye-opener to see how they do, like I said, for the remainder of the schedule here. And I really want to see how your Vegas Golden Knights perform against these tough teams. Are they going to battle? Are they going to have some good winning streaks? Are they going to compete against the best teams in the NHL? Or are they going to stumble a bit? Because this has been a team that since November has had their hot streaks and then had their cold streaks as well. So for your Vegas Golden Knights, solid win-loss record right now. Hopefully, this will be an opportunity for Vegas to stay in the playoff window out there in the Pacific. We're seeing what Vancouver's doing. We're seeing what Edmonton's doing. They're getting a bit hot right now. And LA has been steady as of late. So the Vegas Golden Knights being back on the winning streak. Of course, I talked about it before. That loss against Florida, the loss against Seattle. There's been some losses that have really been piling up for your Vegas Golden Knights. So it's really good to see a winning streak for your Vegas Golden Knights to really get back in the win column for Vegas. That is a solid job by them. And I really am wanting to see how they do in their upcoming game against Colorado. How are they going to battle against one of the best teams right now in hockey? And as we're going to be talking about it here on Vegas Hockey Hub Recap, this upcoming schedule that I mentioned, you have Colorado a couple of days from now, followed by Boston the next night. And then you're going to have Calgary to end that week when it comes to your Vegas Golden Knights. So good news for Vegas, getting back on the win column, back in the W for your Vegas Golden Knights. And then the last part, we're going to talk about the Vegas Golden Knights debut for Lucas Cormier. So Lucas Cormier did a really solid job tonight. He played 19 minutes on time on ice. He had 1 assist, 1 shot on net, and a +1 for your Vegas Golden Knights. He even had a blocked shot in this game in his debut. So not bad for Lucas Cormier. This is somebody who I have really looked at and have said, you know what? He is a player who has some good upside. He is a defenseman that I think the Vegas Golden Knights can really build around if need be, because all the depth on defense. Lucas Cormier, I feel like, has been lost in the shuffle just a little bit, but the fact that he has made his NHL debut, it came up from Henderson. He's had a good opportunity in Henderson to now come to Vegas and have his NHL debut. So congratulations to Lucas Cormier on his debut. And then on the Tobias Bjornfot situation, his first game playing for the Vegas Golden Knights, 18 minutes of time on ice. He had that penalty minute against Matt Martin in the third period. But when it came to Tobias Bjornfot, he had 2 blocked shots in this game. So it's a possibility that we have another guy who's going to be blocking a bunch of shots for Vegas in this on this defense. Now, the team stats is very important. We do talk about the team stats toward the end of every show because it does matter. So the Vegas Golden Knights would outshoot New York by 1. Vegas had 30. New York Islanders had 29. The New York Islanders would out-hit the Vegas Golden Knights by a considerable amount. The Vegas Golden Knights had 22 hits. The New York Islanders had 34 hits. The Vegas Golden Knights would have just 4 penalty minutes in the game. That's 2 more than New York, as Vegas had 2 penalties. New York Islanders had 1. And then the faceoffs were dead even in this game, as New York Islanders were 50-50 with the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, when it came to the blocked shots, New York Islanders had 17. Vegas had 18. So Vegas Golden Knights had 1 more block shot than the New York Islanders. And then the takeaways was a massive a plus for the Vegas Golden Knights, as Vegas had 11 takeaways, as the New York Islanders had 3. So the New York Islanders did a very sloppy job at keeping the puck, and the Vegas Golden Knights did a really solid job at getting the puck away for the New York Islanders. So this is Vegas Hockey Hub Recap. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. And until next time, continue watching hockey, go support junior hockey, and go Knights, go.